Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is you are coming from. So happy to see you all today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Daily Antidote of Song. I want to say hello to everybody out there on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us. And hello to all the folks in this room. Hello, of course, to Bev Grant and Aaron Geyer, who's running the tech, and Elise Bryant. Bev and Elise are going to be singing or leading us in song today. And hello also to Aloysius in Massachusetts, and to Becky in Vancouver, Arlene in California, Deborah in Kentucky, Annette in California, Anne in New York. Hello, Jenny in Victoria, and Karen in Arizona, and Dick in Victoria. Hello, Brian. Nice to have you today. And Betsy from Washington Rebels. Hello, Anna in Maine. Nice to see you. And Dennis from Ubuntu Choir Network. Nice to see you. Hello, Mabel and Bob in Mass. Hello, Ross, also Washington Rebels. Hello, Sue in California. Hello, David in upstate New York. Carolyn in Idaho. Birdie, hello. Glad you're back with us again today. Doug in Vermont, and Christiana in Rockville. Hello. Hello, Jamie in Victoria. Bonnie in Idaho. Hello, Nicola in the UK. Nice to see you, posing as Rosie, I see. Hello, Candace. Nice to have you today. And Sue, Sean, hello. Hello, Anne in Maryland. Hello, Hetty. Nice to have you. Kathy in Virginia. Hello, Sheila in Florida. Kevin in New Hampshire. Hello, Carol in Connecticut. Renata in Wisconsin. Valerie in Kentucky. Nancy's Irish Cow in Washington. Pete and Janet in Toronto. Hello and hello. Hello, Caroline in DC. Hello, Luda. Nice to see you today. We wish Mark a hello. Hello, Dan in Vienna. Hello, Jim in New York. Jane in the UK. Deli, hello, in Maryland. Hello, Karen in Utah. Fred in Maryland, also from the DC Labor Chorus. So there is Fred, who is connected to Elise. Hello, Jane in Silver Spring. Hello, Arden in Western Mass. Nice to see you. Lisa in Indiana, Julie and Rosemary. Hello, Rosemary. Nice to see you today. Glad you're here, coming in from Baltimore. Hello, Robin. Nice to see you, coming in from Baltimore. And hello, Ellen and Tom and David and Beth and Ethel in Oregon. Busy, Carpe Diem Arts, Storm, Susan, Lynn in Connecticut, and lots of folks off video, Susan and Barbara and Lisa and Miriam and others. I'm so glad you've all joined us today. We're so happy to have a great gang in the room for singing with two folks. And also, I love it when there's some new faces. So I love all of you old faces, of course, every day. And it's always great to welcome new folks to the community. So thanks for being with us today. For anybody who's new, the Daily Antidote of Song is here every single day, daily at noon Eastern. One song, some discussion, sometimes on a special day like today, 2 songs for a treat. We are really happy today to have in the room with us Bev Grant and Elise Bryant. So Elise Bryant is with the DC Labor Chorus and has been in this room with us once before when Pat Humphreys and Sandy Apatow introduced us. They're from Emma's Revolution, you might know, and they brought Elise to the room as their guest. And it was an absolute blast having all of them in the room. And today, Elise has brought a friend, Bev Grant, with us, and we're excited to sing with both of them. Lyrics to both songs will be in the chat. Also my email in case you have any questions or want to get on our Daily Antidote email list. And Bev, can you open up today by telling us what you're going to sing and bringing us that beautiful song?
Oh, I thought we were going to open up with Elise.
Sorry, Elise. We are going to open with Elise. Hello, I'm going to try again. Hey, Elise.
Hi, Joe. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Hi, family. How y'all doing? All righty. In honor of Women's History Month, the name that came to me was Ella Baker. And so, and Bernice Johnson Reagan wrote that beautiful song in her name that I knew as We Who Believe in Freedom. It wasn't years later that I found it was actually called Ella's Song. So please join me in celebrating Ella Baker and all the women on whose shoulders we stand. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Say it again. We who believe in freedom cannot rest, cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest, cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. And that which touches me most is that I had a chance to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me. We who believe in freedom. We who believe in freedom cannot rest, cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. To me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. And I can just shed some light as they carry us through the gale. The older I get, the better I know that the secret of my going on is when the reins are in the hands of the young who dare to run against the storm. Get it, Aaron. We who believe in freedom cannot rest, cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Struggling myself don't mean a whole lot. I've come to realize that teaching others to stand and fight is the only way our struggle survives. I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, yes, and I must be heard. Sometimes I can be quite difficult. I'll bow to no man's word. Everybody sing. We who believe in freedom cannot rest, cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. One more time. We who believe in freedom cannot rest, cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks to the ancestors, the one who stepped off the boat, kissed the ground and willed me to be here, to the ancestors of this stolen land that we stand on today, giving thanks for them. Giving thanks to all the women on whose shoulders we stand. There's a sister, I can't say I stand on her shoulders, but I'm so glad to work with her shoulder to shoulder. My dear sister and friend, Bev Grant, singer-songwriter extraordinaire, winner of the 2017 ASCAP Foundation Award for, I think it's Joe J. Gorney, is that correct, award? No, just Jay Gorney. That's what it is, Jay Gorney Award. Jay Gorney. Yeah, got it. Thank you, Bev. But also, we got the J part in it, I got mixed up, is she's also in the same year won the the Labor Heritage Foundation's Joe Hill Award, a two-time awardee and deserving of so much more. But I'm so glad that you take time to come in from New York City, not New York City,
Brooklyn.
We're all the way from Brooklyn, New York. Bev Grant, yay!
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here, especially with my sister, Elise. Elise and I have been collaborating together for a number of years. I go to the Labor Arts Exchange every year, which the Labor Heritage Foundation produces, which is a gathering of people who mainly work within the labor movement, providing different cultural forms. It's not just music, but we have had artists and theater, and Elise herself has a long background in theater, and together with some other another Labor Heritage Foundation or Great Labor Arts Exchange person, Steve Jones, has created a couple of operas, right? Folk operas, do you call them? And they're wonderful.
Labor jazz operas.
Labor jazz operas, okay. But anyway, Elise and wow, it's been over 20 years I've been on the staff of the UALE Summer Institute for Union Women, the Northeast Summer School, which is sort of a leadership training program for mainly union members, although it's now including people who are working in other organizations outside of unions. What do they call those? There's a name for them, but it's a school, and I was hired a number of years ago, probably I think 91. I was my first summer school. Goes back a long time. And I was hired as the cultural director. So I would go to this week-long school, generally held on a college campus, sometimes at the Labor College, where Labor Heritage Foundation used to be have their offices. And I would just improvise, kind of, but I would come with a songbook, and I would teach a little choral segment to anybody who was interested. I have some background as a choral director, which kind of just sort of fell on me, not having had any training at it. But, you know, I have this belief that you just go and do it. And now I've had this chorus called the Brooklyn Women's Chorus for about 24 years. And so I would do these workshops with the students at the summer school, and a couple of the other staff members had put together a slideshow about women's labor history, and I started working with it, and over the years changed it around quite a bit, using some of the foundational aspects of it, like the characters of Sojourner Truth and Mother Jones. And over the years, I decided and figured that this actually, when it became something that I could do easily because of the technology, we did it for years with slides, with the carousel, click, click, click. Sometimes when we were trying to arrange the slides, they'd all fall out. I mean, it was often a disaster, but it was still moving. And when it got to the point where we could digitize everything, I realized that this was something I could do outside of the summer school more than once a year. And so I also wrote a song for it and inserted other music into the show. Songs like Which Side Are You On, Union Made, traditional kind of stuff. But the show had been called We Were There, and I had just read the book by Barbara Wertheimer called We Were There, which is a great women's labor history book to get a little knowledge from. And so I was sitting after doing the show one night, and I was looking at the script, and it had the first character in the script is Sojourner Truth, and she says, we have plowed and we have planted, we have gathered into barns. Well, I wrote that down, and then everything just spilled out. I mean, it was one of maybe two songs I've written that felt channeled, so by the next day I had a song. And so over the years, as I've developed this show and got to know Elise, I feel an affinity with Elise because she's kind of one of those grab onto something and go with it people, like I feel I can be as well. And so she kind of grabbed on to the show and has done it herself without me. And that's felt fine to me because it like spreads the word, which is the main purpose of getting people in touch with labor history. And I've had these amazing experiences when I've taught people when we do the show, we use local people as the characters, and they read a script. And I teach them this song. And many times women have burst into tears because it's just, the sense of not knowing that history or not ever seeing it and embracing it, and is a really moving experience. And to take the part of the characters in the show again is quite a phenomena. One I did it up in Lowell, Massachusetts, at the university there. They have a labor studies program. This is a few years ago, and this young student they were the characters, they were the readers. She came in and she had this sort of blasé attitude. And, I don't think she had a clue what she was stepping into. And she read this part that she was given in the rehearsal, and she read it very blank, very flat, And then she went home and she looked up the character and she found out who she was reading. And she got so psyched by it. By the time she came the next day and actually performed it, she was like really pumped and really into the character. And it made me feel like great, that something like this, this cultural piece can be sort of transformational. And I've been talking a lot. I'm going to throw it back to Elise. You talk about it too.
Oh, thank you, Bev. No, I think it's time to play the song. I think people need to hear it.
Okay.
We'll come back and talk some more and sing some more too.
All right. Well, we're going to play a video that I made using the song. And this is representative of what the whole show looks like. And we'll talk about that later because we're going to do that show on the 24th of March. Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
We have gathered into bars, done the same work as the men, with babies in our arms. But you won't find our stories in most history books you read. We were there, we're still here, fighting for the things we need. We were there in the factories, we were there in the mills, we were there in the mines and came home to fix the meals. We were there on the picket line, we raised our voices loud. It makes me proud just knowing we were there. From the textile mills in Lawrence to the sweatshops in New York, from the fields in California where our children had to work, we fought to make a living. Bread and roses was our cry. Though they jailed and beat our bodies, our spirit never died. We were there in the factory, we were there in the mills, we were there in the mines and came home to fix the meals. We were there on the picket line, we raised our voices loud. It makes me proud just knowing we were there. We were Polish, we were Irish, we were African and Jew, Italian and Latina, Chinese and Russian too. They tried to use our differences to split us all apart, but the pain we felt together touched the bottom of our heart. We were there in the factories, we were there in the mills, we were there in the mines and came home to fix the meals. We were there on the picket line, we raised our voices loud. It makes me proud just knowing we were there.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay. You can do it mechanically or you can do it with your actual hand. Raise your hand if you learned something just by watching those photographs. Raise your hand. Yeah. I mean, it's like images that I like. I literally I've seen pictures of coal miners it was the first time I saw that video. It was the first time I saw women coal miners actually in the mine, right? So thank you, Bev. Thank you so much. It's an educational experience, and it's even more powerful when it's you live, the slide projectors and the women's voices, because that to me, Bev, is the power of this piece.
Yeah,
the
I
whole
agree.
show, we were there, is bringing the voices of the women who we have not heard, not much less seen. So I know for me, and I learned this from you, that one of the first voices we actually hear in terms of the song "We Were There," and for the record, that was Bev singing her own song, not Ann Feeney. It's Bev, and they both sing with the same power and gusto, and Ann Feeney Presente. But Sojourner Truth was one of the first monologues that I learned in theater that I memorized. And so the first time I heard the song, I said, "Oh my God, she's got Sojourner Truth in it." Right there in the beginning of the song. So, and you talked about channeling energy as you were doing this. So just tell us a little bit more about that and how you chose those words and even the first women that you selected to be in it.
Well, it was really, I don't remember. I mean, I wanted to write a song for a theme song, right? So I knew that We Were There was going to be in the chorus. But I just flipped open. It was a moonlit night. I was staying in the guest house in Massachusetts, in Western Mass, in a co-housing place. And I'm sitting there on the bed. The moon is streaming in. I opened the script, and the first words are, "We have plowed and we have planted." And I've often written songs off of something I've read in the newspaper. You know, I will I'll read a phrase and it'll suggest a rhythm, you know, or a melody. And I just went with it. And I don't know. I can't tell you how I wrote it because it just flowed out, you know. I have spent weeks writing a song, but this I wrote in really less than an hour, I think, you know, so it was channeled.
Absolutely. No, I get it totally. I mean, that is inspiration. Inspiration is the breathing in and allowing the energy of those voices who are in us to come.
Right. And also I wanted to talk about the unity, you know. That was really important to me, you know, to like.
When I looked at the documentary they did on women's right to vote, suffrage movement that PBS did, it was still lacking women of color. But you had that right from the beginning. You included the voices of women of color, and you've expanded it over the years. So not only do we have the historical from the 1800s and 1900s, but now you also included women who are currently historic figures in that they're doing it. And so how did you decide to expand it in that way?
Well, I was invited by the International Trade Union Consortium or something. I don't forget what the C stands for, to do the show in Costa Rica for their international gathering from women, union women from all over the world. And I didn't want to just bring this show the way I had it. It was all domestic oriented, you know, prior to that. So as a songwriter, I've written songs about women from Africa and women from Latin American countries. So I already had Rebecca Lola Soli from Kenya that I could put in there, who created a village for women who were being cast out and beat by their husbands because they were raped by soldiers. So she formed a women's village. I had a song about that. I'll put her in, you know, and I research. Every time I'm invited to do the show, actually, I try to find out who I'm doing it. Well, I find out who I'm doing it for, but I try to find out what their history is. what the history of that union. It's usually unions who hire me to do the show. And I try to either create a character that will represent their history, or find images that will represent that history. And that's pretty easy to do now with the internet. And I often will ask the presenter, to send me images if there's, a particular person, woman, who is central to their internal history, to let me know, let me develop something, or let me at least represent them. If they've been on a strike, put their pictures in, and so I think I try to be as inclusive as I can be in anything that I present and in doing this show. So now the show used to be primarily white women, and with the exception of Sojourner, and Lucy Parsons was an original character. Right. And I sing about Harriet Tubman. I inserted that into the show early on, and Charlotte Fortin. But these were all characters who were really back in history. So since then, since I started doing this more international thing, I've been studying, I've been looking for people to put as characters. And now it's like about a 14, it's a cast of 14 characters, and it's totally diverse. Yes, so it has Ai-jen Poo from the Domestic Workers Union. It has 3 Latinas. It's got 1 African. I mean, it's really like all over the world, and I feel good about that. I feel it's what I feel is important to do, is to represent
right
as much as I can.
So it's herstory, and it's been left out of the history books. It's not anything we've learned, and they're still not doing a good job of it. So right. We keep doing that good work. But I also want to hear a little bit about your herstory, because Bev Grant, I believe you were a child star, were you not?
Well, I don't know if I call myself a star, but
you would. But I've seen the photographs.
I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and I from a family with 6 kids. I'm the third, and my 2 older sisters and I started singing together when I was 10, and I had started taking guitar lessons in the local music store downtown Portland, and one of my sisters played electric lap steel guitar.
Sure.
And the other sister played electric bass. And we were known, my so-called...
Wait a minute.
What?
What year was this, or years are we talking about here?
1952 was when
and you all were playing
started.
Electric bass. Girls were playing electric bass?
Well, yeah. I mean, it wasn't... I'm going to be 79 in a couple of weeks. I'm like,
whoa, all right, go ahead, sister. Go ahead. But I'm just saying, in 1952, I don't know girls playing electric bass. Okay, I just didn't know. I didn't. But I've seen the pictures. Go ahead.
Okay. So my dad was our manager. He puffed up his chest when he was with. He always played piano and sang. And my mom used to sing with us when we were doing dishes. That's where we started singing, was doing the dishes, because it's like 4 girls and then 2 boys. And we each had a different job. One set the table, one cleared the dishes, one washed the dishes, and one dried the dishes. It's sort of like,
and you sort of raise your hand. If you can relate to this, raise your hand. Okay.
You graduated as you got older. As the oldest one got married, then you moved up. I guess the ultimate was washing the dishes, although.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we did that for probably about 5 years or so, until the oldest one got married off, and the next one, she tells me that we had another person who joined us for a while, but I have no recollection of that. And then when I got to high school, I started, I had a boyfriend who was a jazz musician, and like around my junior year, we would perform together in our assemblies and stuff. But I began to feel, I went through that adolescent thing that a lot of girls do. I began to feel unworthy and inadequate and not able to measure up to the kind of music that he was playing. You know, we ended up living together, getting married, moving to San Francisco for a year, then to New York after we got married. And I didn't pick up a guitar and start singing again until I got out of not only my marriage, but another relationship that followed it that was even more oppressive to me. And fortunately, I found the women's movement. And that was an extreme epiphany for me to see how I had become something that I wasn't, you know, and that I could be something that I wanted to be. That it was, you know, I was a feisty kid, you know, but I sort of stamped on that when I became a woman. And to realize that, holy shit, you know, I can be whatever I want. And, you know, I worked all this time. I had secretarial skills that I had learned in high school. I was really good typist and took shorthand. I typed 90 words a minute. Ooh, so I was a good employee and I could make a decent salary. Mm-hmm. And I thank myself for that, for having done that. I did have a scholarship to college in Portland, but having a jazz musician boyfriend and having my own apartment, I had to have a job. And so that was 4.5 hours a day of my life. So there was that. There was going to after hours joints where my boyfriend was playing, and there was school, and I gave up school. So I've studied for years on my own. I've been in study groups. I've done all that stuff, but I never went back to formal education, you know, which kind of, for me, it's been a bit of a struggle to like accept myself as, you know, an educated person, that I do have my own thoughts and my way of looking at the world. And sometimes I try to live without regret, you know, and even in terms of the bad relationships I've been in, I feel like it's material, you know. I've been able to use it as material to write about it and to like actually have direct experience, which makes me more authentic, you know. I can talk about abuse, you know, I can talk about those things because I experienced them. But I mean, life is a learning experience, and it continues if you keep yourself open to it, you know. So that's what I try to do.
Also, I know that in your activism, you also became like a photojournalist, right?
Yeah, that was like.
Yeah, you want to talk about that? Just, you know.
Sure. When I found women's liberation, I had been given a camera by my former boyfriend. He had traveled to Japan with the group he was in and brought me back a camera before we broke up.
Oh, good.
Huh?
How good of him. Yes.
It was. I mean, that was a really great thing when I think about it now, you know, and it brought me into getting interested in photography. And I found a group called Newsreel, which I joined back in 1967. It was a filmmaking collective, but they had a photography unit as well. And I started out there. And pretty soon after that, we all just kind of blended into New York Newsreel. And so for a period of 4 years that I was in the group, I was not only taking photographs, but I made a couple of films because my women's group had become part of this group called New York Radical Women. And we got together to plan a protest at the Miss America Beauty Pageant in 1968.
Anybody remember this? Raise your hand if you remember this. Okay. Okay.
Well, I took hundreds of photos of that. And another newsreel woman had a camera, and there was a woman from a group called Radio Free People that brought a tape recorder, and we just recorded everything and brought it back to newsreel, and we made a film called Up Against the Wall, Miss America, which became part of many people's women's studies curriculum, actually.
Yes.
And after that, I worked on a film about the Young Lords Party, which was a Puerto Rican group, community organizing, somewhat militant group, modeled after the Panther Party. So I had, because of newsreel, I had access to many things that were going on. We were really propagandists for the left, I would call us. You know, we were there at the squatter strike. We were there at the Lords. We were there for the Panthers. We were there for anti-war stuff. We did a film about the Columbia takeover. So, you know, there was so many things going on. Anyway, I had this, when I left newsreel, I left because I had started writing songs and I had put a band together. And so I never had the money to get everything printed. So I had stacks of negatives in a shoebox and sitting in a closet for 50 years before somebody came to interview me about my time at newsreel. And I told him about my negatives, and he brought me a scanner and showed me how to digitize my negatives. And I started, it was just serendipitous, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I started posting them on Facebook, and I started getting, oh, these are great. Wow. You know, blah, blah. And it became, you know, serious people started calling me for my photographs. And I ended up putting them with Getty, who are representing me. And I've had a couple of exhibits, and I now have a book that's being published. And
Yay!
will be out in May, and I'm doing the publisher. Ooh. The publisher is doing a crowdfunding pitch through GoFundMe. If you want to, like, you can buy a book through that. It's one of the prizes, and so it's like this renaissance happening in my life at my age. It's like pretty cool, you know. It's like I've felt strange being referred to as an artist when I had this photo exhibit, because I never felt like what I was doing was art. I thought of it as activism. You know, my camera was my weapon, and I was out there, you know, so to have stuff hanging on the wall was like, you know, and to have people like, you know, like kind of taking this view of it, you know, and I was like, you know, I'm not that. But anyway, so what I've done, this is another thing I'm doing. I created a slideshow, and I've been showing it to college classes and anybody who asks me, basically, which shows my photos, but I talk about the history that was going on when I was taking those photos. And I stress the fact that the Black Panther Party and the Young Lords Party, who are often maligned terribly in the press, mm-hmm. were community organizers. And that was their mission. And it was many of the women who were doing that work, you know, but it got so disrupted and horribly attacked by J. Edgar Hoover, who had this program called COINTELPRO and started all of the rumors that set people against each other, started attacking the Panthers, started arresting them. My own brother-in-law was arrested in the 70s, the early 70s, as part of the Panther 21. And I don't know if you remember that, but it was 21 Black Panther Party members in New York were charged with conspiracy to bomb the Botanical Gardens and Macy's department store, among a whole slew of targets. Well, they spent 2 years in jail and were acquitted within 45 minutes once the jury went to deliberate. So you know, it was like that kind of stuff that was going on back then, you know, and it certainly enlarged my consciousness and made me more aware of racism, for one, just the inequality that was going on, my own privilege. And I have two children of color as well, one who's Puerto Rican and one who is Black, which has been had an impact on me in terms of trying to be responsible as a white mother, you know, to make them aware of their own dual heritage, and to varying degrees I've been successful. You know, it's a difficult situation. I've had one family, the Puerto Rican family was great and inclusive. My other daughter's family was not, and that was, I don't blame them, but it was that they themselves did not have a cohesive family that it was safe to, you know, immerse her in, and her father wasn't around. So, you know, there's a lot of things that make person up, you know, and those are all things that I feel come into my art, my culture, my cultural work. I actually prefer calling myself a cultural worker.
So listening to you talking about the past history too, it really made me think about what's happening today. The racism, the fascism, and the movements, the you know, attack on Asian Americans because of a lying sack of doo-doo that used to be in the White House, kept calling it the China virus, and on and on. And you know, people will say to me, "Oh, how do you keep going?" And the song that came to my mind was Issei Barnwell's "I Feel Like Going On." Is Issei on here? I feel like
Issei sure is on here. Yep, Issei is in the house.
You want to unmute Issei and sing this? Just sing it for us a bit here before
we wrap
up.
Issei, do you feel like singing for a minute? She's wearing a mask.
She's wearing a mask, but we know who you are.
Gotcha.
Okay, we're gonna sing one duet.
Hey. How do you say?
Hi.
Hi, sis.
I feel like going on. I feel like going on. The trials mount on every hand. I feel like going on. That's it.
I feel like going on.
Well, I feel like
going on.
Yeah. Because in these troubled times, you know,
yes,
with all the mania and craziness and nonsense and capitalism run amok of lies, people say, how do you go on? How do you go? How do you keep going? How do you not get discouraged? Bev Grant, how do you keep going? How do you keep going on?
I keep finding things to do. Like I took those photos and made a slideshow. Well, now I've taken the slideshow and made a film of it, you know.
Gotcha.
Things like that, you know, and I still direct my chorus, and we meet every Tuesday night. And that's
even the pandemic.
Yeah. What we've done, though, we don't sing that much. We actually maybe sing for about a half an hour, but everybody's getting to know each other because we're doing kind of every week somebody will do a little presentation or talk about their history, or show the quilts that they made, or show their robot collection. That was one, you know, and it's just, you never get that opportunity at Chorus to have that kind of interaction with people. So it's been helpful to everybody to have that, to be able to connect with each other and to have that kind of intimacy, you know.
Yes.
And I walk every day. I do that. And what else? I felt really bad during, for myself. This was bad for myself. I was very energized by all the demonstrations that came from the George Floyd murder. But I felt because of my age and because of my stamina, I couldn't be out in the street.
Right.
But I was just overwhelmed with the amount of consciousness that seemed to be growing in the white folks that were participating, the young people, that just made me feel so good, and I've felt freer myself about talking to my friends. I do meet up with one or two friends about racism, about white skin privilege, having those difficult conversations. There were times when I never felt comfortable talking about stuff like that. There was like this hope, I'm sort of in the folk scene here and there, and I remember a few years ago, a discussion online people were having about, well, is it okay to sing a political song when you have a gig? And I'm like, huh? Well, it's going to interfere. You don't want to offend anybody. That was the conversation. You can't afford to offend anybody because you want to make it somehow. Well, that's changing. There are more and more of my friends who have started writing socially conscious songs. And I have a friend I meet up with almost every week. We started throwing softball back and forth, early on when the weather was nice. And then we'll probably get back to that again. I love to play softball, even though I'm old. But anyway, I still have my glove. And and she has educated herself. She grew up on Staten Island and Italian. And that's like just really, hard place to grow up with a consciousness, a good consciousness, and she didn't start to like really see things until she was in college. But this whole past year, she's reading good books, and she's learning and she's seeking. And we have really good discussions now, and I feel free to talk about that part of my life and my consciousness in, a much more honest and direct way, not having to try to, make it safe, her to feel safe, because she's now really curious,
right.
I mean, I think that, it's like, for me as a white person, I have lived for 44 years in my apartment on 2nd Street in Park Slope. My block was mainly Black and Puerto Rican when I moved on it. And I was already a radical. I moved here. Had just started my band, and I'd come out of newsreel where we did all kinds of study groups and stuff. I mean, I had a consciousness. I'm not going to say it was as woke as it is now, or hopefully will be in the future. But, it was really great to live on this block. I had to prove myself because I was this young white girl, and I remember, like all the guys were kind of interested, because I was going back and forth to my sister-in-law's house. I was painting the apartment, and I'm just walking along in my jeans, and I'm like just totally full of paint. And, all the sisters are sitting out on the stoop, kind of with their hair done, a little bit dressed a little better than me and stuff. And, it was like, I realized at a certain point, I had to really get to know them and to find acceptance, so that I wasn't a mark, number one. And, one of the things that happened was there was this West Indian family across the street who were, there was like some kind of weirdness going on with them. And one woman drew a gun on some of the teenagers who were standing around her car. And the cops came in, right? Guns drawn. I'm looking out the window at this and I'm going, oh my God, you know, and I just thought, well, we need to do something. So I started to talk to people about doing a block party. And we did. We did this mammoth block party called the Second Street Unity Day. And there was a burnout building right next to me. We had a banner. We built a stage. I had the van from my band, right? The Human Condition, which was my band. Right. And I would drive down the block and I'd get the guys. I said, let's go look for wood. And we drove around and we found wood. And we built this stage across the whole stoop, right? And the guy across the street was a conga player, and he got a Latin band to come. I brought my band. We had another woman who organized the kids to do a little talent show. I mean, we just put on this. Oh, there was a guy down the block called Joe Young, and he had been a chef. Well, he got himself one of those barrels, you know, those metal barrels. He cut it in half, made a barbecue out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Got all the winos to peel potatoes and made a potato salad. I mean, it was huge and it was so great, you know, and and then the blackout happened, right? So a lot of the teenagers went down, the big blackout in the 70s, went down. They went down and looted the furniture store on Fifth Avenue, which was right down the block. But the Italian kids are the ones who broke in. Okay. So the Black and Puerto Rican kids went in later, but they're the ones that got busted. So I had some connections with lawyers from, you know, radical lawyers from Newsreel that I had gotten to know. And I did a bail fund, raised bail for them and got them representation. And that, like, it was stuff like that gained me acceptance, you know.
I got you. You actually were doing the opposite of white flight that was happening at that time, right?
Yeah, right.
Fleeing out, and you were like fleeing in, running in.
I was fleeing in.
So I know we're coming towards the end, Bev.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to check in. First of all, We Were There is available. Bev, we've done it live. Up until this year on March 24th, I'm sorry. Wednesday, March 24th is the 47th anniversary of the Coalition of Labor Union Women. And we are going to do We Were There. Bev's going to be live. We're going to have the photos, and then we're going to have readers, the other women performing, who are going to be on audio, but it's going to be the full production. And when we get back, when we're done with the 19 and we all get vaccinated and things go down, you can bring Bev in and do it live for your organization. And it's great because you can get 17, 18 women on stage all over the place. And, you know, like, as she said, it's a really diverse production. So that will be represented. Bev, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to close with a song? You got something on your mind?
I thought of something. I have a chorus that I'll do because when we were talking about kind of songs of unity and stuff, this is the other song that I feel was channeled to me. It's called Together We Can Move Mountains.
Ah, yeah.
And it just says, together we can move mountains. Alone we can't move at all. So we'll just do the chorus. Together we can move mountains. Alone we can't move at all. Again, do it. Together we can move mountains. Alone we can't move at all.
Yeah, Bev. Thank you so much. Thank you, sister.
Thank you,
Joe. Thank you, Daily Antidote. We know that when we sing together, we breathe together, and we breathe together. Our hearts synchronize as one. So thank you. And with all the singing, I say I definitely feel like going on. How about you, Bev?
Definitely.
How about you, Elise?
Woo!
Joe.
Thank you, Elise, Bryant, and Bev Grant. Thank you so much for an absolutely spectacular, outside of anything I ever could have imagined, daily antidote of song today. I have to say, like, so being in the room this month in particular, as we're celebrating Women's History, with these women whose music, art, activism, culture, as Bev loves to say, are so fused. It is just impossible to separate any of them out, right? The music is the activism, and the culture and the art is the activism. And I thank you guys both so much for bringing that out into this space and into the world, because you are so much of what is making it possible for the rest of us to be out there doing it. And I have to also say a couple of notes about some of the things that came up today to tie them in. So Bev was talking about how her chorus has gotten to know each other differently through this pandemic time. So here we are in a room full of people who don't actually know each other except for being in this room to sing. We're from 46 different states. We've had 15 different countries through this room. And we're doing things like meeting at constructive white conversation, anti-racist discussions, or coming together for card making parties to make cards for Howard University healthcare workers. Like, it's exactly that thing, the way that we're coming together and knowing each other and seeing each other, but also getting to know each other beyond what we could have done in real times. I have to say that one of the things that came up in Peggy Seeger and Jean Friedman's the other day was the phrase, the women who made history but didn't make the history books. So that just harkens right back to Bev's beautiful video where we're seeing all of these women, right? They made history. They absolutely did. And we may have never seen their faces before your video, but boy, aren't we going to remember them now? And aren't we going to carry them forward with us as we encourage the folks younger than us to be that next, next population of women who are making history books or not. And I want to say that yesterday we were in the room with Marcia Ball, who was jamming on her piano as she was encouraging us to shout out names, both in the chat, but in our space, of the women, Susan B. Anthony and Rosa Parks and Sojourner Truth. And it was just so refreshing to hear you also shouting out those same names today. Thank you so much. And the last thing I want to say is, because Bev mentioned not chosen school, and I don't remember where it was in the last couple of days, maybe it was even yesterday in this room, that someone said the Zora Neale Hurston quote about research being formalized curiosity. So Bev, you are like a school. You've been a school this entire time in this room today. And lots of folks are putting that in the chat, like, oh, I'm learning so much. And so thank you, Bev, for the way you chose to live your life and the way you have shared your life in this room today. It has been amazing. Thank you, Elise, for thinking to bring Bev into this room and for doing the most amazing job today, both of singing and of hosting and chatting with Bev. I want to thank Issei Barnwell for showing up and out of nowhere giving us a little bit of a song. The way that the three of you all just sang some portion of that song, like out of nowhere in this space, has just made my day and my universe and my life. So thank you so much. I want to ask everybody in the room to please give another big, enormous thank you to Bev Grant, Elise Bryant, and Issei Barnwell. Thank you so much, gang. Unbelievable day today. I want to say goodbye to everybody on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Please join us tomorrow. We have some really cool stuff coming up. We're going to have other folks from Sweet Honey and the Rock in this room celebrating the rest of Women's History Month. So I think tomorrow is Saturday. Sunday, we're going to have Carol Maylard from Sweet Honey going to sing us a song. We're going to have Barbara Hunt in here signing the song because it is the opening day of Deaf History Month. So please join us on Sunday for that. And for the rest of this month, we've got amazing stuff going on. So we look forward to singing with you on and on. And thanks again for being here, Facebook.